as we leave Guthrie Castle again, on our way to Aberdeen, on our way to the colonies, Florida, and then on to Central America and Mexico, and part of the Western Caribbean, then back to Miami, and then on to Los Angeles, and then stopping off in Ohio to see my new granddaughter, and it was born on January 16th, so she's about 5.5 weeks old, and then back to the UK to start my preparation for the April 1st seminar. Actually, I'll be working on the seminar while I'm on the cruise, while Sally's out in the sun, or sun, as she would say. I'll be working on it, and we've already produced a number of new slides. And last night I saw a few minutes of Braveheart, because in the recent, not because of, but in the recent communication, somebody quoted a couple of comments that allegedly Sir William Wallace was supposed to have said back in the late 1200s. I think I misspoke on a previous either podcast or a Reflections and Confessions. I said in 1306 he went to from Arbroath to Calais, or Squire Guthrie went from Arbroath to Calais to bring him back to fight against the English in around 1306. Well, that's not true, because he died in about 1306, 1307, and he came back to Scotland allegedly about 1295 and or thereabouts, and he was theoretically born in around 1270, and so he fought and defeated the English, as I understand it, at Stirling, where he became very famous, and he got knighted by the nobles of Scotland, and then he got his arse kicked, as they say up here, at Falkirk. Now, all this is interesting to me, especially since I've lived here over 30 years, because I've driven through Stirling I don't know how many times, and I know exactly what Falkirk is, and to have that bit of history that close is quite remarkable to me. But it's more remarkable to me, as I've said in the past, that the greatest entrepreneur of all time, in my judgment, Andrew Carnegie, the little wee Scot, who left Dunfermline, Scotland, and depending on who you want to listen to, at the age of between 7 and 12. I like the stories of when he was 7, he stowed away somewhere in Southampton and on a ship, and lived with the rats in the belly of a ship. And about 1835, or he left when he was 12 years old, when his parents decided to leave Britain and go to the U.S. But I like the other story where he lived in the belly of the ship with rats, and he ate rat feces. That's a better story. But it's not too far from down the road, and it wasn't the inspiration for me moving here, because as I've said many times, the inspiration for me moving here was to play golf and be near the home of golf, because I laughingly thought that I was going to be able to quit work and not work anymore after I achieved my primary goals in life. But that, for those of you that have listened to my podcasts and read the various materials on my website and attended the seminar and listened to me talk about goal setting, you know that story, and I'm not going to repeat it here. Part of the reason that I'm going on this trip is I'll be seeing several QLA devotees and a few actual mentees, as I did when I was in London a couple of weeks ago. And I saw, I saw over 20 people while I was in London those few days. As many as, I believe, 7 or 8 one day, which is a little too many. But I've heard more stories from people from various parts of the world. I don't think anybody ever came to the UK as a child with more than 5 pounds in his pocket. So, somewhere they read that in a fucking book. I came there with a shirt on my back, 5 pounds in my pocket, no shoes, dirty underwear, and holes in my trousers. Well, I heard that story about 15, 18 times. And obviously, I don't believe all those stories. Some of them are close to being true, but it's like everybody thinks that it will resonate with me more because I was poor, but I didn't have 5 pounds in my pocket, and I certainly didn't come here with a T-shirt on my back. But both in Florida and in Los Angeles, and even in Ohio, I'll be seeing people. It's difficult to see. In fact, it's impossible to see everybody that wants to see me. And only a fraction of the people that ask am I able to see. And I have no real formula for who I pick, other than if the story sounds interesting. And then I see them, and since you only have 20 or 30 minutes, it's not like I can listen to your whole life story over again. But I'm looking forward to it, and I'm looking forward to seeing my granddaughter in person for the first time. I will have a few show business meetings, or at least one show business meeting, while I'm in Los Angeles. And I look forward to that. And as I said, that the stuff with the networks didn't pan out. Their idea of what they wanted me to do and my idea weren't the same. And now I'm pushing forward on a veteran format. Not that the format will change in the regular seminar, where we've had a number of veterans. In fact, the last seminar we had a Marine and an Army guy that had served in Afghanistan or etc. And we'll still have those people, but I mean, this would be a seminar exclusively for veterans. And it's, I was saddened to hear that the kids, the 2 vets that we had at the last seminar, their challenges weren't much different than mine when I got out of the service, over 40 years ago. And one would have thought, with all the other progress that the world has made in a lot of areas, it would have made progress in that area. I mean, taking care of the Army vets. Although I didn't have any medical problems that I'm aware of, I might have, but not that I was aware of, but it did help me with my education. And I didn't use it to help me buy my first house, though. Although I'm told that a number of the kids use it for that. But I'm more interested in establishing, if there isn't already, some program to allow the veterans some business format, some business, which we give them business acumen to start their own business or buy a business. And so that's what this program is will be devoted to. And we're outlining a number of high-profile veterans that have been successful in life. And coincidentally, I don't really know many. I know a few, but I'm sure there are a number of them out there, and so we'll find them. And I believe that I mentioned in the last Reflections and Confessions, the preliminary name for the endeavor, the program, is from boots to suits, which I think is pretty catchy. and it's the implications are obvious. And let's hope that we can, not let's hope, we will transform many vets from that boot mentality, which was good while we had it when we were in the military, to a suit mentality. And it doesn't necessarily have to be suits now, because now not that many wear suits. I believe you should still wear suits, or at least coats, but that's not a very popular notion now out there. As we drive here to the Aberdeen airport, the current thing in the news is a couple current things. Trump is sweeping the last three contests for the Republican nomination, and Super Tuesdays in a couple days, and he's deemed to do very well in that. Hillary Clinton just beat the hell out of Bernie Sanders in the South Carolina vote yesterday by some 40 points. And Trump and Marco Rubio are going at it hammer and tong, which I find amusing. And but if Rubio doesn't win Florida and Cruz doesn't win in Texas, they're essentially out of the race in my judgment. And if Kasich doesn't win Ohio, who's the governor running, he's dead meat. And he's already said if he doesn't win Ohio, he's going home. The race is over for him. So they're gathering together to try to stop Trump. Now, I've already said, both in my seminar and the YouTubes that we show, that my politics isn't that much different from Donald Trump. I don't agree with him on everything, but I certainly do agree with him that the government is weak, and that they're weak cunts, and that we don't have anybody that's got any balls. Now you have to measure that with a bit of diplomacy. How much diplomacy you temper it with, I'm not sure. I'm not there, and I can only wish and hope and even pray that, assuming Trump gets into office, he tempers some of what he says with some diplomacy. Not too much diplomacy, but some diplomacy to put us in a better negotiation position as a country. I do agree that considering we're the most powerful country economically in the world, considering we're the most, this is the US, not the UK where I'm sitting here, and we're the most militarily strong country in the world, how we wind up on the short fucking end of all these sticks, i.e. most recently the Iran deal. But this isn't a political format for me, so I'm not going to go down that road. But I do know that the upheaval and uprising of the American populace reference allowing Trump to storm to all these victories is because they are fed up to the fucking eyeballs with all the political machinations and lies, etc. It's like somebody said, I think he was a Democratic pundit, that you say whatever you need to say to get elected. And he says even Obama is a classic example of that. Well, I agree. Whether he's a classic example of that, I don't know. But I do know that since I can remember, and I attended in 1960 as a young 15-year-old, the Democratic convention in the sports arena in Los Angeles. And I was on the floor working for John Kennedy. It was quite an experience, although it didn't give me the political bug, so to speak. But I know a few of my other buddies at the time, when we were 15, 16-year-old, did get the political bug and have been active in politics all this time. Also, what's in the news right now is the Apple controversy with the FBI, reference Apple not wanting to turn over wherewithal to get into this San Bernardino terrorist iPhone. I don't know all the details, but I'm agreeing with Bill Gates, who seems to be agreeing with the FBI. Most of the other heads of the tech companies have sided with Apple. Gates is one of the exceptions, and I agree with Gates. Although I would normally agree with him on political issues, but I do agree with him on this. So we'll see how that goes down. Whether Apple is just doing this for publicity's sake because their iPhone sales are down or not, I don't know. I would like to think that the CEO of Apple is a better American than that, but having run a public company myself, I know what the shareholders can say about you if you miss your numbers, although I don't believe Apple has missed their numbers. I've done some work as well on the hardcore seminar, which will be in October, as I mentioned, I believe, in the last Reflections and Confessions. We've got, it's about, I'd say, let's see, it's about roughly 25% full, and I would expect that it'll be fully subscribed. We haven't really made the official announcement and sent it out to all the devotees, or not devotees, these would be QLA alumni, because that's the only individuals that are responsible for it. I studied carefully the testimonials from the kids that attended the hardcore. Now remember, these kids all attended the QLA seminar at least once, some twice, 3 times, and in one instance, Robert, Bavarian Bob, as we call him, had attended 12 previous seminars. And all the commentary was along the same lines, that it was transformational. They said roughly, if the regular seminar had changed our lives, the hardcore seminar had, one, solidified that transformation, and 2, exaggerated it geometrically. And the plan is, and what we're working on, is to change the format, even to make it more proactive, because even though it was probably 300, 400, 500% more proactive than a regular seminar, we're going to make it even more proactive than that, because it's obvious what the kids walked away with and what they felt was the most positive. So again, this is the best practices, to say the least. I've been asked, what about other seminars later in the year? I can't really answer that, but I would be surprised if there aren't any. And again, the hardcore is not over Christmas as it was last year. This will be in October. It'll be hopefully in conjunction with a regular seminar. But until you attended the regular seminar, you don't really know what to expect. And even though the hardcore is significantly different. I was working on since yesterday, and this is Sunday, the 28th of February, so leap year is upon us. And I don't know if that really means anything to anybody anymore, but it's 29 days in February. It's where the calendar catches up. But I've been reading weekly reports, and the weekly reports seem to be, considering I put new pressure on the kids, they seem to be, as with everything, some are adhering to it like fish to water, and some are struggling. But that's the way life is. When I can't imagine having 100 kids, but you got 3 kids some struggle with stuff, some don't struggle, some excel at strange things, and some excel at the more simplistic things. Well, it's very much the same with the mentees coming out of the seminars, and it never ceases to amaze me. And you really can't judge from their actions in the seminar, although it does give you an interesting perspective to measure against their future progress or lack thereof when you see how they act in a week. And in some adhere to the process much more readily than others. The April seminar will be different than the February seminar. This is the regular QLA seminar, because we learned a couple things, and I'm not going to steal my thunder and explain to you how it's going to be different in April, but it will be different in April. And for those of you that have attended the seminar many times or even twice, you realize how different it is. And it was interesting, in the February seminar, we had a guy named Matt, who's an Australian who has been living in the UK the last 10 or 15 years. And I want to congratulate Matt, because he's been picked to represent Great Britain in the on their triathlon team to compete internationally. So congratulations. He says that the QLA has helped him to focus and to get better times and do better in that. And I'm wishing him all the good fortune that he deserves through hard training. But getting back to Matt and the seminar, he came to the seminar April last year. So that's roughly 10 months ago. He's attended the seminar in February, the first week in February, just a couple weeks ago. And he said, and he got up and he talked, and we had a webinar. And the webinars that we have during the seminar are not published, but sent out to the mentees of mine that are current mentees for the past year and are still part of the mentor program. If they wish, they can log into the webinar and they can send in questions. And so that's live. And then he was live in front of the group that was there for February. And he said, not putting words in his mouth, that the seminar is completely different from just 10 months ago. I don't know if it's completely different, but I'm sure it's 50, 60% different, because we've added, deleted many things since he attended in April. The other part of that is, and I think that it's an enriching process, is that because he's been out practicing the QLA, like a QLA bot as we call them, he now understands better because more dots have been connected, as Brian Rose would say. More dots have been connected, because when you just have a sheet or a slide full of just a bunch of dots, that's training, but knowledge. And the reason why I tell you I don't like you reading books is because when you read books, you use that as an excuse for not pulling the trigger and taking action. And the next seminar it connects those dots, so you go from knowledge to experience. And so I think that part of the reason that Matt believes that the seminar changed so darn much is that it makes a hell of a lot more sense to him, because he's connected the dots out in the real world. But that, in conjunction with that, we have changed the seminar a great deal. So I would be highly surprised for him to have not said that. Just as, although we haven't had it in a while, somebody that attended the seminar a few years ago and then comes back, other than the title, they can't hardly recognize it. And of course now we have all the teaching aids. We use the video and sound, and we have a lot of visual aids, I should have said. and it makes the learning experience easier. Still not easy. It makes it easier, and it's a much easier format to follow in 2016 than it was in 1996 or 2006. I mean, by geometrically, and I'm continuing to make it better and better and better as long as I do this. I've also been asked recently, how long am I going to do this? And that's the same kind of question is, will I have any more seminars this year? I would expect, I would, but I don't know exactly when. And although there's some tentative, the only one I focus on, it's like a prize fighter. I focus on the next one, and the next one's in April. And the only reason that we have a date for the hardcore is that and we make it later in the year because we want to allow as many of the participants of 2016 to attend, and you can't attend unless you're an alumni. Although I'm told that a number of you kids have asked about just going straight to the hardcore and skipping the first or the main QLA seminar. But having given the hardcore now, it's obvious to me, and the kids also agree that it wouldn't be the same experience without having gone to at least one QLA basic seminar, and I've never called it basic before, and having practiced out in the real world for a while. So we're going to keep it that way. But how long am I going to continue to do this? I don't know. As long as I feel good about it, which I do. And as I chuckle when I say this at the beginning of the seminar, I tell the kids that I will be stronger and more energetic the last day of the seminar than I am today, and that's normally my opening comments. And I will be significantly stronger than you cunts after 6-7 days of me beating you. Some of the things that they referred to me as is, I'm the alpha male dad they never had. Yeah, okay, so, that's nice. I've also been recently called the matrix of knowledge of high performance coaching. I've been called for some time now the Darth Vader of high performance coaching. And a few other things. Whether any of those resonate with anybody, I don't know. But I find it not unusual, but I find it very descriptive that all these things or entities that I'm described as being are sound like from a Marvel comic book. So I don't see anything wrong with that. But remember, as I mentioned at the last seminar, the things that I've accomplished in the past now seem to almost dwarf the real me in 2016. And the farther the distance from the actual act, it now I'm some cross between something superhuman and I don't know what. So, but I'm still a man, a human being, got kids, a wife. But I've continued to work very, very hard. 45 years. It was 45 years last month that I've been working. And although I went to graduate school when I was, because I graduated from university in January 1971. And it's interesting, I sent out in an email, and I'm sending out a newsletter, and by the time you hear this, it probably would have gone out. It's not going to be a newsletter, but it's just a bulletin to my entire mailing list of, 25,000 or whatever's on that, that have requested information from me in the last couple of years. A young man on LinkedIn sent me a copy or a link to my January 1991 commencement speech at CSUN, California State University, Northridge. And I hadn't heard it in many years, many years. And I sure as hell hadn't heard it from beginning to end in, 15, 20 years. But I listened to it, and it was overwhelming, notwithstanding it was me, but how on message, how fucking online I was QLA. And this is before QLA was even a twinkle in my eye. This was January 1991. I gave my first QLA seminar in May 1993, and I was still at Great Western on a high. Saddam Hussein had just invaded Kuwait in 1990, so this was just 6-7 months after that. And of course, my net worth had been reduced greatly because the share price at Great Western had gone down. But and so a year after I gave this speech, I was thrown out of Great Western. And then 2.5 years after I gave this speech, I gave my first QLA seminar. But I was on message, on point, online, like I couldn't believe. So I've always said that I believed in the QLA methodology before I ever called it QLA. I've always said that I've lived my life to be all that I could be since, especially since that I've received a commission in July of 1967 as a young officer, and it meant something to me that they called me an officer and a gentleman by the Act of Congress. Of course, some of my friends would say the only body that was strong enough to call you a gentleman, Dan, was the Act of Congress, either that or God. So, but to the best of my knowledge, God hasn't called me that. But getting back to it, so I was on message. I couldn't believe it. And it's the only thing that I have where I'm speaking about acting as if you have no limits to your abilities. And many of the other things. Practice within when you're without. Practice being successful before you're successful. And to the best of my knowledge, it's the only thing that shows that QLA. And for those of you that are aficionados about all the stuff about me on YouTube, tell me if you find anything, send it to Thelma or my website. I'd be interested in seeing it. But I was taken back really strongly when I looked at it or listened to it, that how on point I was. And how on message that still is 25 years later. Now, I've had a number of kids over the last 25 years that have alluded to that speech changed their life from the graduation. And it was a graduation commencement speech for the School of Business and Economics at CSUN. It was their first commencement speech, meaning they had always been part of the total university's graduation process. So it was the first commencement speech, and I was picked as their first commencement speaker, ostensibly because I was the best and most successful graduate that the School of Business had produced in 20 years, because I graduated in 71 and I gave this speech in 91. And some say, although I have no way of proving it, that not only was I the most successful to graduate from the School of Business, I was, in theory, allegedly, theoretically, the most successful person that ever graduated from the school in any of the colleges, or perhaps even that had ever attended the school. Now, there's been some, high-profile people. Richard Dreyfuss and I went to school, Academy Award winner, and a few others. But I'm still honored by being distinguished by that. Now, I've had a number of distinguishing things happen to me over the years, and I expect to have a number more before my time's up. yes, can you ever get used to that kind of distinguishing event? Not really, but the more it happens to you, the more you become comfortable. And as I've said countless times, success begets success. So that was an interesting happenstance from the past week, and I was glad for the young man that on LinkedIn to send me my speech, and a few of my friends I sent it out to, one of which was Vinica, who you know, who works with me. She said, "Boy, were you young," and 25 years ago. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing, but my beard was certainly not as totally white like it is now. Okay, kids, that's it for now. I look forward to talking to you in about a month's time when I'm coming back from the colonies. In the meantime, peace and God bless.